to the International Vision Zero in Construction, Health and Safety Visual Conference 2020. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all participants, all speakers, guests, and chairpersons. The theme of this year's conference is From Safety and Health Problems to Practical Solutions in Construction. Ladies and gentlemen, the conference has attracted speakers from across Africa as well as internationally. The conference has two sessions. We are going to have the morning session as well as the afternoon session. And then each of the sessions has two technical sessions. My name is Larna Serrero, and I am the moderator for the morning session of the conference. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our hosts. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our hosts. Our hosts are Professor Karl-Heinz Nortel. He's the President, International Social Security. He's the President, International Social Security Association, ISA Construction. Our other host is Crown Prince Hakeem Dixon. He's the Director General, Total Workplace Safety Management Systems. We also have Mr. Ehi Aiden, President, OSH Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the opening remarks, and we will start with a brief address by Professor Karl-Heinz Nortel, President, International Social Security Association, Construction. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Herrero. Thank you for your introduction, and a warm welcome to all friends, colleagues, and participants of this first International Vision Zero virtual conference in construction in the area of health and safety. For me, it's a pleasure and an honor to host this virtual conference together with Ehi Eden and Crown Prince Hakeem Dixon, and also a pleasure to listen to all the speakers today. And only to give those who do not know ISA construction section a short introduction, I only want to say that we were founded in 1968 to promote the prevention of occupational risk in this particular dangerous sector, the construction sector. The accident rate here is all over the world much higher than the average over the whole industry, and therefore there is a need to, let's say, promote prevention. One tool for the future will be the effective tool Vision Zero, and all the presenters today, they will show us good practical examples how to implement Vision Zero, how to prevent occupational risk in this sector. And we support all over the world the promotion of good practices. And ISA construction section, which is working globally, we have working groups on specific topics like falls of height. We are publishing brochures. One will be introduced later as well, prevention through pictures, because we have so many languages in the world. We need pictures to make people understand quite easily what is good, what is bad. And we are organizing international symposiums all over the world. And we are taking part as hosts, as ISA Construction, with other partners like this international conference. And the first time that ISA-C participated in a conference was this OSH Africa 2019 in South Africa. and was a big experience for me and my colleagues to listen to these speakers from all over Africa and to exchange experience and to talk to a lot of experts. We are giving advice to interested countries about workplace health, good practices in construction sector, and reception of delegations from several countries. Unfortunately, because of pandemic, there is a break maybe of 1 year, but nevertheless, you are welcomed if you like to, let's say, join some of the countries in the world to learn how they handle health and safety in the construction sector. So I'm happy that today we are talking about the 7 golden rules, about the Vision Zero, and to learn from each other how we are improving the situation in the construction sector and the good examples and the best practices to share with others, because it's always vice versa. We are learning from each other, and then learning means we can improve and we can make it better, the health and safety situation in the construction industry. So therefore, I'm looking forward for this interesting virtual conference, and thank you to all who supported it. Thank you to all who made it and make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Our next speaker will be Crown Prince Honorable Hakeem Dixon. Crown
Good
Prince
morning.
Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, and I welcome everyone to the International Vision Zero in Construction, Health and Safety Conference 2020. As you know, my name is Crown Prince Honorable Hakeem Dixon, the Director General, Total Workplace Safety Management Systems, and the immediate past Director General, Lagos State Safety Commission. Lagos State Safety Commission is the regulatory body responsible for occupational health and safety in Lagos State, Nigeria. My experience with occupational safety, health, and well-being started out from being the Director General, Lagos State Safety Commission in 2016 till August 2019. During and closing stage of my tenure as the immediate past Director General, LSC, I engaged the government, private organizations, professionals, institutions from all aspects of social economy. These collaborations were keys to a successful tenure. Collaboration brought about partnership with IOS. That was the first thing that started, that we want to train over 500,000 professionals in Nigeria. We're able to get that one on the way. Then another was to train 25,000 HSC professionals in Nigeria. That was done through the DGUV, the people in Germany. They were very nice to us. And we call that one Train the Trainer Initiative, which was in collaboration with SAEF. Now, leading to this conference, I was invited by OSH Africa. Let me just say a big thank you to my brother, who invited me to this OSH conference in South Africa. And also, I was invited by my brother, my uncle, my big boss, which is Mr. Elmon Ain, to come to South Africa for the mining, for the 50th anniversary of mining. During this anniversary in South Africa, in Protea, 2019, I met Dr. Carr. Believe me, it was just at the gathering. We're all just drinking and enjoying. And when I saw him, I was like, this man looks nice. And he was just enjoying himself. So we started talking about construction. And he said something. Do you know we can have a conference in Africa for Africa? I said, yes, we can, because people are dying so much on the construction industry. And he said he would help and that he would make sure that we get the conference going on. Then he made a visit to Nigeria. Myself, Ain, and Michael and others were able to meet him and discuss a lot about this. And that's how this conference started. This idea of the conference started. And we're supposed to have it done this year in Lagos, Nigeria on the 25 and 26, but because of the COVID, so we are postponing to next year, which will still take place on the 23 and 24 of November 2021. We'll invite every one of you to come back again to Nigeria and take a look at this conference because Professor Ann has made it possible for us. So now this other sector that will be joining again next year on this construction industry, mining industry, prevention in transportation, and the prevention in chemical industry, and prevention, information for prevention, then the electricity, gas, and water will be part of it. But today, all of us need to just listen to the expert about the strategy Vision Zero and how it can be applied in the construction industry by using the 7 golden rules that will help us to do more prevention. So, well, personally, we launched Vision Zero in Nigeria in 2018, after it was launched in 2017 in Singapore, and we're able to, co-launch with Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Zambia. That's how I was talking to Dr. Elizabeth, very nice woman, and believe me, my experience in Zambia means we still have to come down there and do another launch. So thank you, and I want every one of you to enjoy this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Crown Prince Honorable Hakeem Dixon.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next speaker is Ehi Aiden, President of OSH Africa. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Lerona, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for making it for this great virtual conference for 2020 on safety in construction. It is a great joy to see this conference virtually happen today, because when we started this planning, I mean, there are a lot of doubts when COVID-19 came in, wondering what will be next. But thank God for the virtual possibilities that have brought us to be able to converge and talk about what we have put on the front burner, even at this time. But we want to, at this point, also say, we thank everyone from every part of the world who deem it, who made it possible, I mean, for us to be able to have this, Hakeem Dixon has mentioned a lot of this already. But what I want us to focus on, even as we gather this morning, is to look at Vision Zero, not just as a campaign, but let's move from being a campaign to a smart business strategy capable of bringing forth profitability, business success, and supporting commitment towards the health and safety and well-being of employees. When it was launched in Singapore, it was tagged a campaign, but it has grown astronomically globally and translated into many languages across the world. So at the point that we are in, Vision Zero has evolved, greatly from just being a campaign to a smart business process that can be applied to any form of business and get requisite result. But one of the things we want to really advocate as we gather today in this conference is to once again speak to leaders to please commit themselves to Vision Zero. Because without leadership commitment, there's no way Vision Zero can strive. We are not hoping for Vision Zero. We are not hoping for zero. We are aiming for zero. And most times we always hear it is not possible. Yeah, but that's true. But you can only make it if you try. We all need to put our hands together. All hands have to be on deck in ensuring that we start shooting for zero. And it is not possible to do that except we're all having the same mindset, having the same kind of training, and standing at the same point, at different points, but speaking one language. What is that language? We want to aim at zero. So wherever we are, wherever we stand, wherever location we work from, but we must have that same language that we want to aim for zero. And once we have that, we are able to do it. But I must also say, while we discuss at this conference, that we are also looking at bringing health, safety, and well-being to the front burner in the discussion in procurement. And that's very critical to us here, because when you talk about health and safety in construction, procurement is a very huge part of that, because we need to have the use of safety materials, safe technologies to use. But once we miss it at the procurement level, it becomes a big problem. So some of the things we'll be looking at why the conference progresses for the next few hours is to be looking at it from the point of procurement. But why we zero on this, I need you to leave your mind open, because Paul Duffield will be taking a look at the 7 golden rules. And when it comes on board, what you should look at is, how do I pick any one of these and adapt to my business processes and business principles? In Africa, where we have 86% of the workforce that are into informal work environment, while we have only 14% that are actually engaged in regular formal work. This is a big problem we have here, and all we are looking at is how do we sell Vision Zero to the informal sector. And this was critically discussed in the conference we had in South Africa last year. How do we translate all the content, all the research, all the materials in Vision Zero, translate them into practice, not just in the formal workplace, but how do we use it to improve the informal workplace? We have COVID-19 right here before us. You will agree there is no time that the world ever needed to talk about health and well-being outside the time that we're in today. I mean, when COVID-19 came, I mean, it was a shocker to everybody. Every business place was shut down. People didn't plan for what happened, and mental health became a key issue that was being discussed. And that was what we talked about. When you look at the tripod where Vision Zero sits, well-being become a critical part, which of course played out as we were faced to deal with COVID-19 at this period. And even construction sector, critical issue of hygiene became a problem. But when you put all this together, you find out that while we talk about Vision Zero, it looked like what was projected to look at the future of what's to come. And shortly after, we had COVID-19, which of course, most of the principles, when applied properly, gave people a whole lot of latitude to deal with, workplace processes within the COVID-19 era. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion for the time we have at our disposal. I need everyone to leave their mind open. In Africa right now, we are looking at how do we create more people within the health and wellness space. We have generalists. A whole lot of them are in Africa, but can we start looking at how we can start talking about specialization, where we can start moving generalists into the space of health and well-being? And that's a very critical part we are looking at right now. And we're happy that that's a part that the Vision Zero strategy is already talking about. Well, I'll just throw a light in the two last golden rules as I end my welcome address this morning. We must understand these 2 last golden rules, which of course improve qualifications and invest in people. When we take these 2 together, you find out that they are highly intertwined. When we invest in people, invariably we will improve their qualification in terms of training, in terms of how to improve their skills. And I think this is the new narrative we should bring to the workplaces, where we can say, okay, as we're coming into 2021, what budget do we have to invest in people, in terms of capacity building, competency improvement, how to upskill in ensuring that we are able to work in line with our goal in ensuring that nobody gets harmed within the workplace. So as I sign off on this note, I once again welcome everyone to such a very interesting event, which of course we're happy that the virtual event is happening right now. And we also use this as a precursor to what is going to happen in Nigeria next year, November, while we gather for the physical conference. Thank you very much for listening, and I wish you all a very good deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ehi Eden. That was a very valuable message. I would like to now introduce to the stage Mr. Chansa Kapema. Mr. Chansa Kapema is the Manager, Occupational Health and Safety Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board, Zambia. Welcome, Mr. Kapema.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Larona, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Larona, I don't know, would you want me to go straight into the opening remarks, or I do my presentation in brief?
We can start with your opening remarks, sir, and then you can continue on with your presentation.
Thank you very much. I would want to thank the organizers of this event for according us an opportunity as Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board. It is indeed a great honor to be accorded such an opportunity because as Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board, we value the health and safety of people at the workplace, and in particular construction in this regard. In terms of Vision Zero, as a country, as I'll be able to show in my slides, we've actually embarked on a vigorous program with regard to the promotion of health and safety at the workplace. And buying into the Vision Zero vision, we did launch our national Vision Zero in 2018. And this started with various activities that just tried to prepare industry towards this vision. We did some preparatory works prior to the national launch. And when we did the national launch, we proceeded to do some sector launches, which I'll be able to show later on. These sectoral launches were basically in the hospitality industry, as well as the agricultural sector. As everyone might be aware, the COVID issue has not really been good to us. It has affected quite a lot of programs that we are supposed to have undertaken. We are supposed to have dashed into launching the Vision Zero into the mining sector, construction sector, the water utility sector, as well as road transport. However, these programs have been deferred to next year, and we are hoping that 2021 will be a better year for us. That said, I would just want to encourage everyone to participate actively. As Mr. A. Hayden said, this is all our problem. We need to partner and try and help the workers at the workplace, try and mitigate accidents. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chansa Kapema. That was the opening remarks from Mr. Chansa Kapema. You can go straight to your presentation, sir.
Thank you very much. I would want to share the presentation now. Thank you. So basically, we are going to present our presentation from Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board. And the outline of the presentation will definitely give you a background of what the institution is all about, the functions of the institution, and our brief journey with regards to Vision Zero. And then I'll briefly touch on the construction sector in Zambia. And by closing, I'll also share the problems that we are facing in the construction sector and the proposed solutions. So as a way of opening, Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board is basically a statutory body that has been established under Section 10 of the Workers' Compensation Act number 10 of the laws of Zambia. Then it is a body corporate with perpetual succession and a common seal, and the institution is capable of being sued or suing. As you may be aware, the institution falls under the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. That is our principal. Then in terms of the functions of the institution, among other things, is to implement the Act, which is the Workers' Compensation Act, and then also to administer a fund out of which workers disabled by reason of accidents or diseases can be compensated. Then we also have several other functions under the Act. These are basically accident prevention provisions, and these are the prevention of accidents or diseases at the workplace due to the nature of any occupation. Then under B, we also promote health and safety of workers. As you may be aware, the compensation process in its very nature is a reactive process. So we are saying that before we compensate, I think as a socially responsible institution, we need to prevent accidents at the workplace so that where we can, we prevent accidents at the workplace and as such prevent compensation at the workplace. Then other than those two items, we also return people to good health as well as return them to work. So we've got a provision under the Act which facilitates that we assist injured workers by provision of the necessary support that we may give them with regard to trying to bring them to good health. Then in terms of the journey to Vision Zero, I should mention that it's been a very interesting journey, as I mentioned earlier on.
Sorry, excuse me, Chancellor, can you put it on slideshow so that we can see it clearly?
Sorry?
Can you put it on slideshow so we can see your slides clearly?
Is that any better?
No, there's a slideshow. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
It's okay now.
Yes, in terms of our journey to the Vision Zero, we did 3 pre-launch workshops prior to the launch, the national launch. We did one in Lusaka, the capital city. One was in Kitwe and Livingstone. Then further to that, we also did the Safe Workers of Tomorrow initiative. This is basically an initiative that we started with forming of the safety clubs in schools. We thought it's easy to roll out this program so that we can inculcate safe behaviors right at a tender age in secondary and primary schools. Our plan is to roll out this program into universities and colleges as well. This was supposed to have been done this year, but again, because of the COVID pandemic, this has been deferred to 2021. Then the national launch, as I alluded to, was done on 14th December 2018 in the capital, Livingstone. And this conference attracted 400 delegates with 12 international delegates from France, Germany, Switzerland, Eswatini, Tanzania, Ivory Coast, and Nigeria. Those are just pictorial pictures for the national launch. On the top, bottom right, you'll be able to see the band. That is the band that composed the very popular song, and I think it was awarded at the ISA Awards, I think this year. Then that is just some pictorial showing the Safe Workers of Tomorrow, where we launched some safety clubs at one of the schools here in Ndola. Then in terms of the post-launch activities, what we had anticipated has actually been affected by the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. We did launch the agriculture sector launch in Mukushi on August 2019, hospitality industry in Infue on 26th August 2019. All being equal, we were supposed to have launched the post activities in the small-scale mining, road sector, petroleum, water, and sanitation. But as I mentioned earlier on, these launches have been deferred to 2020, hopefully. Then just to give a background of construction in Zambia, it is important at this point that I mentioned that Zambia is predominantly a copper mining country. However, the country is also dominated with a lot of construction, and this construction is basically driven by the same mining industry. So what we are saying is in Zambia, we produced 857,847 metric tons of copper in 2018. However, this dropped in 2019 for several other reasons. That said, in as much as Zambia is predominantly mining, we've also seen quite some increase in activity with regards to construction. And this demand is largely driven by the mining industry. Then in Zambia also, general infrastructure development is taking place. We've seen quite a lot of residential buildings, shopping malls, road construction coming on the fore. Then, of course, the construction sector in Zambia is predominantly characterized by several unique characteristics. Some of these are that sector ranks near and among the bottom in terms of employment sectors when it comes to wages. And this is a very, very big social security problem in that there is inadequate social protection cover for the workers in this sector. Then we've also noticed that this is the sector that has the most inherent occupational safety and health risks. We are getting a lot of accidents from this sector reporting for purposes of compensation. Then the other unique factor is that most government construction projects are awarded to and performed by foreign-owned companies. Basically, this is driven by their ability to submit comprehensive tenders, technical capacity, and of course, financial capacity to start these works from scratch to completion. Then in terms of residential construction, these are one-off and mostly private clients obtain services from informal and unregistered contractors. And basically the projects are owner-driven. The person carrying out the activity is the one that drives the process. Then in terms of the legislation governing the construction sector, we have the National Council of Construction Act number 13 of 2003. However, we had also an SI number 39 of 2015, which required that all construction projects were supposed to be registered with the National Council for Construction. Basically, this requirement was driven by the fact that this Council of Construction needed to see that all construction works adhere to issues of tender processes as well as OSH at the construction sites. This same act was repealed and was replaced by the Construction Act number 13 of 2003, which was repealed in 2020 this year. Just to give you a nutshell of the projects that are being carried out in Zambia and the extent of the construction sector, we've got some important projects that are currently being done by the government. One of them is a greenfield project, the construction of the Copperbelt International Airport, which is costing $397 million US. Then we've also got the upgrade of the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport in the capital city, Lusaka, $360 million US. These are all Chinese projects, and they employ quite a number of people exposed to all sorts of OSH risks. Then in terms of supporting companies, we've got companies that support the construction sector. And I should hasten to mention that the construction sector in itself, it's a trigger effect. You find that in construction, workers are exposed to accidents, but even the downstream companies or industries supporting this sector are equally prone to accidents. We've got Lafarge Cement, which produces 1.4 million metric tons per year. This is cement into the construction sector. We've also have Zambezi Portland. This produces about 475,000 metric tons. We've got Dangote Cement. This is a Nigerian company. It has set up a plant in Ndola with the capacity of approximately 1.5 million tons per annum. That said, you will notice that in as much as construction is faced with these OSH risks, even the support industries like the cement producing companies are equally faced with occupational health and safety risks for the workers that work there. We have, on the other hand, Ndola lime production, which produces lime. This is 150,000 metric tons per annum. This is basically a company that produces limestone to support the construction industry. There's Nelkamp Lime, which produces 100,000 metric tons. Then in terms of other support industries, we've got a steel manufacturing company, though not fully actualized in terms of capacity. This is Universal Mining and Chemical Industries in Kafue, which produces 200,000 metric tons. However, the country has got a deficit of about 70,000 metric tons, and this is basically imported to supplement the deficit. There, we are just showing the progression of the same company from 2018, when the company was launched, up to about 2014, when the company went into full production. This is now 6 years down the line, and the company is fully operational right now. In terms of challenges and problems that faced the construction sector in 2020, you will agree with me that I think the world over, most projects actually came to a halt. We had supply chains that were affected globally, and we could not have building materials and construction materials get into the country. Then we also had a challenge in that most foreign contractors who had gone back for their holidays were locked up in their countries of origin. And this actually meant that most projects came to a standstill. Then also we had some restrictions on working in groups. Most construction sites were deserted because there were guidelines from the Ministry of Health to maintain social distancing, as well as work schedules to help decongest the workplace. In terms of strengths and solutions, we realized that being part of the global village, Zambia heavily depends on other countries for the inputs in terms of construction. But the COVID-19 pandemic has actually opened our eyes to say, no, we can actually harness our resources to the full. Cement and lime production, I think we can still produce much more than we are producing. Then silica, we've got quite a lot of silica in the country, which is not fully exploited. And I think when this avenue is exploited, we'll be able to be self-sustaining and support our local industries with regards to silica requirements. Iron ore production, in as much as Zambia produces steel, we are still importing much of it. And mostly the steel that Zambia is producing is gotten from scrap metal. But we are saying that Zambia can fully exploit materials like iron ore and silica if we can harness the local resources that we have. I would want to thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chancellor, for that informative presentation. I have a question for you, sir. How do you ensure that the Chinese companies doing construction adhere to health and safety policies in Zambia?
Thank you very much.
Okay, can I just repeat that? How do you ensure that the Chinese companies doing construction adhere to health and safety policies in Zambia? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator. First and foremost, I would want to admit that this has been a very big challenge, especially that currently we do not have a national OSH policy governing OSH in the country. However, I'm happy to report that we've got a draft document which will be going to cabinet anytime soon. Once this document is put in place, I think it will bring sanity to how we handle this sector. However, we have the Department of Occupational Health and Safety Services under the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. These have actually come out very handy with regards to regulation, as well as the National Council for Construction. As I mentioned earlier on, the NCC, the National Council for Construction, has mandated that every contractor who wants to engage in construction should be registered with them. And one of the things that the NCC will look at is the prevailing OSH conditions at these construction sites. So currently, those are the controls that we have in place.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chancellor. Unfortunately, we do not have time for any more questions. The rest of the questions will be answered via email. So please, you can send in your questions. You still have time to send in your questions, but they will not be answered now. Thank you very much, Mr. Chancellor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to move to the technical sessions. Our first technical session will be by Dr. Elizabeth Lungu Nkumbula, Chairperson of the African Chief Executive Officers Network for Vision Zero Global Campaign, Zambia. Over to you, Dr. Elizabeth Lungu Ngumbula.
Thank you very much, Madam Larona. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. I wish to welcome you to the first technical session where I have an excellent panel from 4 countries. But before we go into the session, I would like to first of all thank the organizers for inviting me to this important conference with a great audience. Special thanks go to my Nigerian family, and that is Crown Prince Honorable Dixon and Dr. A. That's my family in Nigeria. It is my pleasure to be part of this conference and a privilege to chair a session on Vision Zero, a way to improve occupational safety and health in construction. We all know that construction industry is known for being one of the most dangerous fields to work in. And out of every 5,000 private industry worker facilities, 20% are in construction. That means 1 out of every 5 worker deaths is construction related. Construction also results in many non-fatal injuries that cost companies a lot of money, and this makes safety a paramount in the construction industry. Now, the question is Vision Zero a way to improve safety and health in the construction industry? Ladies and gentlemen, my excellent panel will attempt to answer this question. And at this point in time, it's my honor to introduce the panel. I have Mr. Paul Dafil, the General Secretary of OPP-BTP from France. I've also got Mr. Sanjay Gandhi, Chief Operating Officer, Current Technology Limited from Kenya. I've also got Evangelista Soflavsta, Cyprus Association of Civil Engineering from Cyprus. I've also got Alexander Akwe, a security and safety practitioner in Ghana. It is my honor to now invite Mr. Paul Dafil, the General Secretary of OPP-BTP from France, to discuss Vision Zero in the construction industry. And it is your floor now, Paul. Please unmute your microphone, and you have only 15 minutes to discuss your topic.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. Good morning to all of you. I'm very happy to be with you this morning. I'm very happy that digital technologies allow us to travel at the speed of light and to meet all together today in spite of COVID-19. So OPP-BTP, just to tell you a few words of it, we are probably the oldest specialized body for health and safety in construction. We've been founded in 1947, and I can testify on the interest of having a specialized body to accompany a construction company in the long term. I would just like to check that you have, yes, I think the printout.
Sorry, Mr. Duffy. Sorry, Mr. Paul.
Yes.
It looks like you are too far from your system, so we are struggling to hear you really. Thank you.
A bit closer. Is that better now? So I propose to start my presentation with reminding a few facts on the health and safety in the labor world. We still register about 374 million accidents at work every year, and 160 million occupational diseases worldwide every year as well. We have on top of it 2.78 million deaths caused by accident at work or work-related health conditions every year. And as Elizabeth underlined, at least 20% of this is linked with construction. This means that every 14 seconds, somebody dies due to working conditions somewhere worldwide. This has a tremendous cost to our societies and companies, which is estimated at $2.4 trillion US dollars, which is about 4% of the world GDP. So this shows the magnitude and what is really at stake with health and safety at work. And once again, construction is a key area for this. So what are the general causes? So contrary to what some people could think, technical deficiencies is truly a minority cause. It is estimated that only 10% of accidents are due to technical causes. 90% of them are linked to organizational or behavioral deficiencies, like no training, lack of competencies of personnel, poor planning or preparation of work, poor communication, wrong instructions or wrong instructions being wrongly understood, poor coordination, which is especially important on the construction site where multiple companies operate, responsibilities that are not made clear, and finally, inspections which are not made. As we are trying to get systems implemented, but we have to make sure that they are effectively put in place. In construction, what are the main causes of accidents? Slips, trips, and falls. Falls from heights is the #1 issue in construction, accounting for about 1/3 of all fatalities in the industry. Ladders is a key issue linked with falls. It is the #1 cause of fall accidents in construction. We also have issues with falling objects, electricity, other substances. I could also add to this list shock with equipment, heavy equipment especially. In all of this, once again, fatal injuries amount to about 20% of all fatal injuries, which means, again, a tremendous cost of about $1.25 trillion US dollars worldwide. So protection from fall, especially when we look at it from a construction point of view, goes back to a very long time ago. And to that question, when do you know when fall protection started? The answer might surprise some of you. It goes back to the Bible. And indeed, in the 5th book of Moses, we can read, "Then you buildest a new house, then thou shalt make a battlement for thy roof, that will not bring blood upon thy house, if any man fall from thence." So this is a very old concern, and we have to be all the more very much concerned today, as this is an issue which is not yet tackled. Let us see quickly some pictures of what we see on construction sites worldwide, because this is an issue everywhere in the world. This picture is from India. You can see on the picture on the right a rope, which is an absolutely useless protection against fall, obviously. This is a picture in Africa, again with situations that expose workers to risk of falling. This is a picture of France, which shows you that those problems are to be found everywhere. Another picture of Africa. One again, I don't know where that comes from, but with people in absolutely dangerous situation, but seeming to be pretty happy about it. Again in France. So don't believe that you can fly. In construction, we are not birds. The workers have to get a safe working place in order to avoid falling. Why do we make mistakes when we are talking of health and safety? Of course, in the workplace, there is time pressure, there is cost pressure, which is linked to competition, to the expectation of the customers, but we also lack overall safety culture. And this is where we have to think of how we get organized in order to cope with the issues of risk in construction. And definitely, and especially in companies and for our national systems, we need a strategy to be able to cope with managing the risk effectively. And first among our risks, be able to lower the fatality rates in construction. So obviously, and this is the objective of the conference, the answers that we are proposing to share and review today is therefore Vision Zero. I'd like to add a word to the interesting opening remarks of the conference, which is why Vision Zero, why zero? Dr. Bruining from ESA made a very clear statement one day. What can be the objective in terms of how many accidents you can accept in your company or on the construction site? Obviously, even though achieving zero is a very difficult goal, but the only acceptable goal is zero. There is no way that we can say, oh, finally, this guy can have an accident. That's acceptable. That's why it was chosen to have the Vision Zero. So Vision Zero, is it an illusion? Is it a possible mission? Clearly, we will see, and we have demonstration from progress made in numerous companies worldwide that the system works and needs to be implemented. It is quite simple to put in place and has been organized around 7 golden rules that we are going to review. The rule number 1 is take leadership commitments. Rule number 2, identify hazards and risks. Rule number 3, set targets for safety. Rule number 4, ensure a safe system. Number 5, use safe and healthy technology. 6, improve qualification. And 7, invest in people. 7 rules is quite simple. We will review them now quickly, each after one another. So the first rule is take leadership commitments. Management has to set the example, has to give leadership in order to make sure that everybody in every company, and all the more, I would say, on national systems, that effectively leadership is put into place and gets the whole system to move to safety. Safety has to be the number 1 item on the agenda. Successful construction companies have safety as the number 1 subject every time they have a management meeting. Management has to be exemplary. Whatever going on the construction site, they have to make sure that everything is in place. They have to grab the right equipment, of course, personal protection equipment, and whenever they see something that is not correct, one has to react instantly. Rule number 2 is identify hazard and risks. If you want to cope with the risk, you have to know what risk you have to deal with and clearly identify them, which is why one has to put in place systematic risk assessment. There are a number of numerous tools that help companies, which can be found, for example, on the internet. That's step number 1. One should not forget maintenance and repairs, and evaluate the possible consequences of risks in order to prioritize the risks that you have to deal with. Rule number 2 is to set targets for safety. Well, everybody knows that in business, if you do not measure, you do not progress. So you have to put a target and be able, therefore, thereafter, through your management reviews, for example, to evaluate the progress and take necessary action plans in order to achieve the targets. Then you need to ensure a safe system. You need, therefore, to define a system, ways to operate, the way you are going to train, support people, how to define construction methods, equipment to be available on site. And then you have to make sure that the system is indeed enforced. And this you can achieve by making managers responsible, making this management system alive and being animated, and which is not the easiest part in construction, trying to get clients and owners involved because they have also their share in responsibility. When the customer puts some requirements, if he's requesting good results in terms of health and safety, he will help very much so all the companies who are involved on the construction side to achieve together a good performance. Point number 5, Dr. Eddie mentioned this before. It is indeed important to choose the right equipment. Procurement is something important. Therefore, select the right technology. Whenever you have to buy the equipment, machinery, the way they are being used, the way they are being maintained is a key point as well, and is therefore the object of rule number 5. Rule number 6 is improve qualification. Clearly, workforce, the people active on the construction site, are the first value of construction company. And good performance will only be achieved with good, competent personnel, which is why you have to implement education, continuous training, and having defined effectively what is the right level of qualification that you need for your personnel. And last point, invest in people. Business, I would even say that a company is first of all a number of individuals that get together to get a job done. And people have a lot of possibilities, a lot of talents, and it is our responsibilities to bring all those capabilities together to be able to get the right collective performance that is absolutely necessary to get success in USH. To help you achieve all of this, ISA is making available numerous supports. You have an internet site, which you can see on the left side of the slide. You can have leaflets, which can be distributed in numerous languages. And finally, there is also a mobile phone application, which can also use, which is very convenient for use to remind the rules and some easy tips on how to implement them. For those who can speak French, I put also to your knowledge and attention additional resources that are made available free of charge to anybody who wants to access them on the internet site of OPPBTP, which is called preventionbtp.fr. You have the site itself. You can have support on the phone, even if you like. We have magazines, we have posters, so do not hesitate to make the best use of it. It's all for free, and the most it is used, the better it is. I thank you for your attention, and Elizabeth, I get back the microphone to you, wishing all of you best success in implementation of Vision Zero. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for your comprehensive presentation. Indeed, Vision Zero is the mission possible. I now turn to Sanjay Gandhi, the Chief Operating Officer at Current Technologies Limited, Kenya. Can you please share with us how Vision Zero has improved occupational safety and health in construction in Africa? The floor is yours. Please unmute your microphone.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone on this webinar. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak about Vision Zero in construction, how we can improve the safety statistics and make sure that everybody that comes to work in the construction sector goes back home safely to their families every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year. My name is Sanjay Gandhi. I have been in this profession for the last 26 years in safety and health, predominantly in the energy sector. So it's oil and gas and power generation, working with a company called Chevron, both in Kenya and in the United States. And currently, I am also the chairman of the organizing committee for OSH Africa 2022, which will be held in Kenya, hopefully, when the vaccine is completely discovered and administered, hopefully we can be able to meet face to face and have a successful conference here in Kenya. So I welcome all of you on behalf of my brothers and sisters living in Kenya, and welcome to this webinar. If I can advance my slide, right. So Current Technologies as a company is an energy sector consulting engineering company, and we are predominantly working in 3 verticals. We conduct engineering work, which is predominantly engineering design, project management, and construction supervision. On the health, safety, social, and environment side, we're carrying out a lot of risk assessments within the industry, as well as on behalf of our energy regulator. We also carry out due diligences for potential investors who are coming into the country, obviously the environment social impact assessment studies, and we also licensed by the government in Kenya for carrying out statutory audits on behalf of clients that they regulate. Our third vertical is what we call other services, and under this vertical we provide health and safety training, again legislated in our country. We provide health and safety training that's both legislated as well as specific bespoke training that our clients require. I'm personally the Africa-based instructor for Taproot. Taproot is a US methodology for root cause analysis, and I'll be conducting this kind of training for various companies, whether it's the oil and gas, mining, construction industry in Africa, Asia, the Middle East. We also conduct feasibility studies. We're involved in developing legislation, performing advocacy work with the regulatory community in Kenya. We perform technical due diligences on behalf of our clients and also valuation of assets. So that in a nutshell is generally what we tend to do and have been doing it for the last 19 years. As far as my agenda is concerned, there's a couple of things that I want to look at. One is, what's the current state of safety and health in construction? I think Paul has demonstrated through pictures the kinds of things that we see as practices within the construction sector. They're not very good practices. Some do have some excellent practices. However, the vast majority do not. I'll then try and look at what are the problems, what are the causes of incidents in the construction industry. Paul again has alluded to these, and so I won't spend a lot of time there, but I'll look at the root causes that I've seen based on the training that I've conducted for several companies in Africa. And so my presentation is really focused on what we're doing in Africa. And then last but not least is that if we are in a current state where construction safety is not handled very well, what is the desired state? And Vision Zero is perhaps one of those goals that one can achieve in order to be able to ensure that everybody goes home safely to their families in the construction sector. So how do we achieve that? I'll just put some thoughts across for everyone that's on this webinar to be able to think about. Typically, these are the construction practices that we see in different parts of our continent, and the reasons for these kinds of practices could be varied. It could be that the contractor is not committed to health and safety, and there could be reasons for that. The contractor may or may not understand what safety and health means. The contractor probably believes that health and safety is the function of a health that's on site. The worker himself or herself may not necessarily understand why they're being asked to, have safe practices or conduct safe practices, wear the correct types of personal protective equipment to be able to prevent injuries from occurring to themselves, so that they don't go, home with one less part of their body than they came to work with. So these kinds of aspects are not new, and I've seen that throughout the webinar today. Several presenters have got pictures
Os apresentadores têm imagens de muitas partes do mundo em que indicam as práticas que a gente vê em diferentes partes do mundo. Então, se olharmos para estas causas imediatas destas práticas OSH no setor da construção,
Peut-être cela n'est pas nécessairement limité à la construction. Mais en général, nous trouvons ce genre de pratiques. Peut-être qu'il y a des pressions financières.
Side of things or the contractor side of things, generally we have deadlines that we need to meet. Now, in order to meet those deadlines, people do all sorts of things. You know, they'll have contractor employees working overtime. They will have more employees on a work site than are necessary. And these kinds of practices then lead to shortcuts that we see. They lead to behaviors which, you know, if the behaviors are not good, then the consequence management system is the one that's used to correct the situation. However, those kinds of root causes and therefore corrective actions don't necessarily change the behaviors of the individuals that are working there. It only takes away the problem for a short span of time before it returns back. So financial pressures and deadlines which lead to shortcuts and unsafe behavior is perhaps one of the reasons that we see incidents occurring in the construction industry. Another aspect is obviously lax training and supervision. So, you know, contractor workers that come to site are assumed to have task-specific training, whether they're masons, carpenters, plumbers, welders, grinders, steel fabricators, all those trades that we have within the construction industry that we use generally assume that a person has actually had the competence that is required for that job. Now, most of the time people get on-the-job training. They don't necessarily receive formal training. And therefore, what that leads to are assumptions that you hear in construction industry. People say, but the guy should have known this. Why did he cause this incident? He should have known this. Those types of assumptions, if we look at some of the underlying causes, you could find that they're due to broken information flows between the contractor supervisor, the employees, unclear responsibilities. You know, again, the worker not necessarily knowing that it was his or her responsibility, or that they were accountable for certain actions which they didn't take, which led to a problem occurring and therefore an incident. So those are some of the aspects that I see as causes of poor OSH practices. Another aspect that we see commonly is insufficient occupational safety and health standards. Now, these could be within the regulatory community, where we don't have necessarily sufficient laws and regulations. We don't have codes of practices. And as a result of this, contractor owners generally tend to take the easier route, where they can, you know, minimize on their operational costs as far as salaries, wages, provision of PPE, and so on are concerned. And because the regulator doesn't have the muscle to necessarily enforce the requirements. We also find that regulators in a number of parts of Africa do not necessarily have the resources available to them, and also the capacities, the organizational capacities within the regulatory community is lacking, which then leads to relaxed enforcement, unclear expectations, and as a result of that, that leads to incidents which then, people start doing root cause analysis. So we're very reactive in terms of the way we look at things rather than being proactive, and we like end of pipe treatments, rather than using preventive type measures that people would have used to prevent incidents from occurring. Now, if I look at those causes, what we've come up with are 7 categories where we can actually place the root causes. And those 7 categories are what are shown on the screen here, starting with procedures, where we look at procedures for doing certain construction works. What does a construction worker need to successfully perform their task? And therefore, there's either a lack of procedures, the procedure doesn't exist, there's no job safety analysis that is being carried out, the safe systems of work that Paul was talking about, that doesn't exist. So those aspects are one of the first things that we see that are not there. Training is a second aspect, the lack of training. For tasks, a lot of the times when we look at incidents when they occur, the story we hear is that, the worker has been trained. And when you question whether the worker has been task trained, generally you'll find that people say, no, he wasn't task trained, but we provided generic training. That doesn't work because the expectation then is that, the worker should have known, and therefore we have a problem there. Quality assurance, quality control. In our industry, in the oil and gas industry, this is a big issue when it comes to construction of certain pipework, manifolds, things like that. And therefore, we require third-party inspections to be able to understand whether construction has been conducted to the right standards. Communications is another big problem that we see within the industry. And communications could be that, either the communication didn't exist, the turnover of communication wasn't there, the shift handovers weren't done properly, the communication wasn't timely. These are all root causes that are associated with communication. The big one then that we see is management system. And management system is really looking at what standards, policies, administrative controls exist within the construction company to be able to safely manage a construction site. As somebody asked the question, how do you implement construction safety measures when you have, for example, contractors coming in from the eastern part of the world, from China, from India, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan. These are companies which we work with here. And fortunately, unfortunately, whether we like it or not in Africa, we're going to see more of these kinds of companies coming in because they have capacities within themselves to be able to do the work as far as infrastructure is concerned. So management system is another problem. The third, the fifth area that we look at where root causes exist are human engineering. And human engineering generally looks at, what was the work environment within which the construction activity or activities are being carried out? What kinds of human-machine interfaces are required with things like excavators and the excavator operator, forklift operator and the forklift itself, rollers and the roller operator, and so on. And last but not least, we look at work direction. And work direction really includes things like the work package that is given to the worker to be able to successfully do the work, whether it's the permit to work system, whether it's a job safety analysis, the selection of the worker also to do the work, was the right team of workers, chosen to do the work, and how were the workers supervised? These are all issues to do with work direction that we see problems with. So when we look at the root causes associated with the causes that I mentioned, they generally fall under this category. At the core of all this is, the central theme, which is leadership, commitment, and accountability. So it doesn't matter, where you are within the organization in terms of practicing good construction safety practices. If the leadership in the organization doesn't drive the agenda, if the leadership is not committed and is not accountable, then it doesn't matter how much effort people at the lower level, take or perform, nothing is really going to change because the leadership doesn't believe necessarily in this process. So when I looked at, Vision Zero, the guiding principles that Paul talked about, and I look at these 7 principles, and I'm not going to repeat them, what they generally tend to demonstrate is that they are a more simplistic way of, looking at a management system. And that leads me to, how do we select contractors in terms of pre-qualification and selection? And I think this is one area where, if employers select contractors, they need to sort of do pre-qualification of contractors. How do you select a contractor in the first place? And pre-qualification generally means perhaps using a third to conduct, an assessment of the contractors to be able to see whether they're the right individuals. Carrying out pre-job task and risk assessments on the contractors, training the contractors that are selected and orientating them through, toolbox talks, contract orientation, induction training, and those kinds of things. And then obviously monitoring the contractor while they're performing the job and giving them feedback on an ongoing basis. Last but not least is post-job evaluation, sitting down with a contractor and talking to them about things that they did well and therefore encouraging those types of behaviors and practices that they could have perhaps improved upon so that they don't, make the same mistakes again, or they can change their practices so that they're more positive in nature. In other words, we're looking for soon certain positive consequences as a result of this contractor process. I think a systems approach to achieving Vision Zero is perhaps what's needed. The 7 guiding principles are all encompassed within this Deming cycle, the plan, do, check, and act cycle. It all starts with a planning phase where we're looking at commitment, responsibilities, accountabilities, who's responsible for what level of commitment is there, are the policies, procedures in place? And I'm really not talking about an elaborate management system. I'm only talking about a system that is necessary, absolutely necessary to manage risks. Contractors don't necessarily have the time to have lengthy procedures and thick manuals that they refer to. And that is not what I'm advocating for at all. What I'm saying is that everything needs to be practical, and therefore the hazard identification risk assessment process, whether you're doing a job safety analysis, whether you're doing working at heights type of risk assessment, or working in an excavated area, hot works, cold works, all those kinds of things are parts of risk assessment that we do. Compliance is an important aspect. What I find is that a lot of contractors around our continent don't necessarily understand legislation that exists within the respective countries. So compliance is going to be an important aspect. And once you've understood commitment, resources, accountabilities, once you've understood the hazard identification risk assessment process, then the management planning and programs need to kick in. And once that's done, then we look at the personnel. What type of personnel do we require? What training is required for them? What documentation is required? How do we do the monitoring and evaluation? Community awareness aspect. Sorry, I think there's somebody speaking in the background. Somebody speaking is not on mute. All right. Then we have the check phase, which is really looking at the key performance indicators and checking whether or not people are complying with what was set out in the planning phase as far as objectives and targets are concerned. If there are any incidents or problems that occur, how do you carry out the incident investigation, root cause analysis, and then obviously taking corrective actions in order to prevent similar types of problems from occurring. Proactive type problem solving is looking at near misses, looking at adverse trends and those kinds of things. Those are more progressive than looking at reactive types of things where incidents have occurred and then you're taking corrective action. So there's a lot of opportunity that contractors generally have in looking at things proactively rather than looking at reactive things reactively. So finally, I think the Vision Zero can practically be achieved if there are these sort of ingredients that exist within the system. One is leadership, commitment, and accountability. I think that is at the core of this process. The safe systems of work need to be in place. Compliance with the local laws and regulations need to be there. Evaluation aspects also have to kick in. And one other aspect is that as human beings, we all require recognition and reward. And therefore, one of the things that I don't advocate for and I don't necessarily look for is giving, gifts to people at the end of the year for good safety performance. What people want are soon certain positive encouragements, and therefore they like to get recognition and reward when something good is done immediately. That's typical human psychology, and those kinds of aspects then encourage other people to behave well. And we've seen a number of companies in Africa do that with quite a degree of success. And those practices should be encouraged. Inspections, reviews, audits, I think those are also important in order to be able to see whether the programs are working the way they're designed to work. And last but not least is trending and analysis. Good trending, is proactive. It helps in terms of looking at what future performance might look like from a health and safety perspective, and therefore moving towards this Vision Zero goal for making sure that everybody goes home safely to their families when they come to work. So I think I'm going to stop there. Madam Moderator, I think I've exhausted my 15 minutes, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are.
Thank you, Sanjay, for that insightful presentation. The questions will come at the end of the session. Now, okay. I'm turning to Evangelist Solovsta, I hope I've pronounced it properly, who is representing Cyprus Association of Civil Engineering in Cyprus. Please give us an account of Vision Zero in the construction industry in Cyprus. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. Good morning to everybody. My name is Evangelista Tsoulofta. I am a civil engineer by profession, and I am senior labor officer in the Department of Labor Inspection of the Ministry of Labor, Welfare and Social Insurance of Cyprus. I will present to you Vision Zero experience from Cyprus, but firstly, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the organizers of the conference and personally to Professor Nettel for inviting me to participate in this conference and share with you Cyprus' experience with Vision Zero. Cyprus is a small island in the Mediterranean Sea. You can see on the map the location of Cyprus compared to Africa. The population of Cyprus is estimated up to 1 million, and in accounts of 0.2% of the total population of the total European Union states, 28 states. It has a total area of about 9,000 kilometers, so it's very small compared to Africa. Cyprus was a British colony, and it is an independent state since 1960. Unfortunately, in 1974, it was invaded by Turkey, and today half of the area is occupied by Turkey. In 2004, Cyprus entered the European Union, and since then, Cyprus is a member of the European Union, and Cyprus legislation is fully harmonized with EU legislation. Vision Zero in Cyprus. Vision Zero was, the idea of Vision Zero was introduced in Cyprus through, we'll skip this, we'll go to this slide. So Vision Zero in Cyprus was introduced through 2 international conferences. These conferences were organized by the Cyprus Association of Civil Engineers, and co-organizer was BGBAO. The conferences were also under the auspices of the Minister of Labor and supported by ISA Construction. Many speakers were from all over the world presenting various topics. The first conference was in May 2017. It was based on Vision Zero campaign of ISA Construction, titled From Problems to Practical Solutions, and the motto was, you can make it possible. In this conference, the 7 golden rules were explained, and also practical implementation of the 7 golden rules were presented. Following ISA Global Campaign, another conference took place in May 2019, titled Invest in Prevention, Plan Ahead, with the motto, you invest, prevention pays. And during this conference, it was highlighted that there is a profit from investing in prevention. Innovative solutions and practical examples were presented, including virtual training experience. Also, 3 workshops took place where the participants had the opportunity to discuss and share the ideas on implementing the golden rules and Vision Zero strategy. The introduction of Vision Zero in Cyprus motivated organizations and professionals to join the campaign. Today, Cypriot official partners of the campaign include 2 ministries, then the Department of Labor Inspection, private universities, the Cyprus Engineer of Engineers, Cyprus Association of Civil Engineers, private companies, and under Vision Zero, various activities were promoted, like seminars, photo competition, and also official announcements calling other organizations and professionals to join the campaign. Fundamental actions were promoted by the state implementing the 7 golden rules. I will present to you these actions. Although integrating OSH and prevention in the construction from the conceptual stage and during all the stages of a project was firstly introduced in Europe in 1992 through the EU Directive for Construction Sites, still the results are not as expected. This approach was based on the results of a study in Europe on causes of fatal accidents in the construction industry. This study showed that causes were by 60% decisions during the design and the procurement stages before starting the project execution, and 28% decisions, 37% decisions during construction works. This graph from academic publications shows on axis X the project schedule, and on axis Y the ability to influence safety. It is obvious that as the project progresses from conceptual design to detailed engineering, procurement, and construction, the ability to influence safety is limited. It is obvious that considering safety during design offers the most payoff. Based on this approach and implementing the 7 golden rules of Vision Zero, actions were promoted. I would like to present to you some of these actions. A fundamental action related to golden rules 1 and 3, take leadership and define targets at the state level, was a common declaration on safety and health in the construction industry, which was signed by all authorities involved in the construction industry and involved in regulating building development in Cyprus, including 3 ministries, engineers chamber, contractors association, contractors council, employers organizations. 4 specific targets were agreed to reduce, and these were agreed, and these targets aiming to reduce occupational accidents and diseases. First target, integration
des accidents mortels et des maladies.
for the design and execution of projects. Second,
À la fin de l'exécution de ce projet,
uma formação contínua. O quarto, o terceiro, a criação de critérios
and contractors. It means including OSH training as a pre-requirement for the registration of engineers and contractors, and close cooperation, working together to implement legislation effectively. Related to Golden Rule 2, identify hazards, and for implementing safety in design, it is required by the legislation that during the design stage, it should be identified all predictable risks during the project execution and the usage of the project, and measures should be included in the drawings of the project and in the specifications of the projects. Also, the safety and health plan should be integrated in the design of the project and included in the procurement documents and the project execution contract. So, using these tools, we prevent risk from the design and preparation stages of every project. Related to Golden Rule 5, ensure safety and health in machines, equipment, and workplaces, a grant scheme was promoted for funding equipment for wet at height and upgrading of scaffolds. According to this scheme, the contractors were subsidized by 30% of the cost of the purchased scaffolds conforming to relevant EU standards. This helped so that the contractors had new scaffolds according to conforming the EU standards. For related to the implementation of Golden Rule 6, improved qualifications. In Cyprus, it is in progress, the process of introducing standard qualifications for all the professions, including construction workforce. During this process, training on OSH issues has been included as a requirement of these qualifications. And finally, related to Golden Rule 7, motivate by participation. It is required for every construction site the establishment and operation of coordinative safety committees. These committees consist of workers representing all the contractors and subcontractors on the construction site, and these committees are involved in risk assessment as well as they are involved in the investigation of accidents that happens at the construction site. So through this coordinative safety committee, people, workers participate and are motivated towards occupational safety and health. I will continue my presentation, presenting the results of promoting Vision Zero Golden Rules through pictures, comparing situations in the past and today. In this slide, we can see the improvement for removing the waste in a construction site of a multi-store building. Risk from dust and falls of particles in the past are not here to, are not on the construction side of today, because suitable equipment removing the waste are in place. Here we can see in the past risk of slips and traps, which are not present in the construction sites today. Another example regarding the staircase edges protections for preventing falls in the past and today. Falls from height, and especially falls during roof works, either during roof erection or maintenance of roofs, is a common cause of fatal accidents. A picture from the past with no protection and a picture of safe workplace, a platform with protection against fall from height and edge protection of today. In this slide, we can see proper fencing and safety barriers from construction sites today compared to the past. Falls from unprotected floor edges is a common cause of fatal accidents. We can see pictures from the past related to a fatal accident or fall from a balcony edge, and examples of protection edges as well as protection of load platform edges of construction sites today. Again, work at height. Today, suitable scaffolds and scaffold inspection systems are in place. Also, in high-rise buildings, lifts are in place to be used for safe access on high-level floors, which you can see shown on the picture with the red arrow. Additional, a staircase is required to be used for safe access, as well as to be used as an escape route in case of emergency situations. According to prevention principles, collective measures should always be the priority. In these slides, we can see the use of safety net for safe work at height. High-rise buildings is the new trend of Cyprus, and since scaffolds are usually manufactured to be erected up to maximum 30 meters, according to EU standards, they are not always suitable to be used on during the erection of high-rise buildings. So the best solution to work at height in this case is to use sliding formwork and protection screens, which provides working conditions similar as to work on the ground. And this is the practice of today. We can see another slide with the pictures from high-rise buildings. And as I said before, is the new trend of Cyprus. So, and the last slide, it's from pictures from cleaning as well as maintaining facades during the whole life of high-rise buildings. Designers should integrate during the project design and include in the project drawings and specifications the installation of safety devices to be used during cleaning and maintenance work. Here we can see examples using raw boxes for glass cleaning and glass replacement of today. The possible safety methods to be used during maintenance and cleaning works for each part of the building, including facade, should be specified during the project design and included in the project safety file. So we prevent accidents during the whole life of the project. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. And I hope that I could explain you actions in Cyprus related to Vision Zero. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Evangelista, for that comprehensive presentation. Last but not least, I'd like to invite Alexander Akwe, a security and safety practitioner, to tell us the experience in the construction industry in Ghana.
L'expérience dans l'industrie de construction au Ghana.
To you, please unmute your microphone and please be mindful of time.
Veuillez aussi vous rappeler du temps, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
My name is Alex. and I'm presenting from Ghana. Today, I'll be talking about my experience in the Ghanaian construction industry in line with health and safety. Please, can you see my slides?
Yes, but you have to put it on slideshow.
Great. I hope I'm better.
No, okay, that's fine. It's fine now. Thank you.
Great. So the basic outline for my presentation today is to take an overview of the construction industry in Ghana, to consider the perception of safety, a little walk through the current legislations, and then we look at some data with regards to what is currently happening in the industry. So as you can see our skyscraper. This is a 7th floor building. And this is a clear indication of some of the challenges we have in our industry here in Ghana. Now, in Ghana currently, from 2016 and 2007, 7% of the GDP. And then currently also is considered the fastest growing sector by the Ghana Statistical Society.
Le secteur le plus élevé.
Also, it has the highest fatality rate. In fact, it's been recording the highest over a certain period. But strangely, the trend is changing. And we believe that the change in trend, not because of security and safety, but it's actually due to the fact that construction processes have slowed down a little bit. Now, in Ghana, we have quite a number of legislations, and I know another speaker will be handling this aspect of the presentation, so I wouldn't go much into the industry regulation. Now, where I would want to talk about is the fact that in Ghana, safety the last thing anybody thinks about, because there is no clear-cut law and as we all know, their workers, everybody play the way construction sites. I have visited the T officers. In fact, as a result of that, also training is very low, and then no supervision is being enforced within the industry. Now, this actually has been as a result of the fact that the regulatory bodies are not actually conducting enough inspections as they should do, and they blame it on lack of logistics. But when you look at a typical project in Ghana, when you see the amount that is allocated to government institutions and the regulatory bodies to ensure that the project is completed successfully, it will baffle you why we still have to struggle with logistical constraints. Now, in as much as that is there, one of the key issues that has also contributed in lack of safety in our construction industry is the fact that there is a huge political influence in our construction industry. In fact, most of the major construction works in Ghana are government projects. It's government that is building their few multinationals that are also involved. And we have had to fight with corruption and a whole lot of other issues that actually impedes the progress of the work. As a result of that, contractors in the bid to make more money for themselves do not care about the quality of the work they are doing, number one. They do not care about the life and the safety of the people who they are working with. And this, to a large extent, have contributed to the very poor safety regime that Ghana is experiencing right now. And currently, a lot is being done. And the last point, as you can see, it talks about the poor country syndrome. When you talk about we need safety, we need to do this, we're a poor country, we cannot do that, we cannot do that. But when you see the values of projects and you see how much is actually put into the project, you realize that it is not that we don't have the financial muscles to do that, but it's just that people lack the commitment to make that happen. Some other issues that contributes to that is the fact that there is a extensive subcontracting. So contractor is a politician who gave it to that. Nothing is really being monitored. All you need to go away with all is very strong link with politicians. And when you do away with, but that is not to say a lot is not being done. A lot of effort is being done to streamline the processes in Ghana at the moment. And we believe that conferences like this will shed light on what is happening and will help us going forward. Now, when you take a typical construction project in Ghana, the role that security and safety play starts from the commissioning, designing, constructing, and the operating of the
I think we are losing you, Alexandra.
See the value to have these people on board. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, you are back now.
I'm back. Yes, thank you very much. So what I'm saying is that because of the challenges in the industry, the security and safety professionals in Ghana actually work on less than 10% of the total project per annum. Because at the end of the day, there are
It seems we're losing him.
I think he's battling poor connection. Let's see if we can get him back shortly. Please, we apologize for this. Let's just wait for him a little while.
Okay.
Dear moderator, I think he's out. We lost him entirely.
Proceed.
Yeah, I think we should proceed.
Okay.
Okay. So I got lost right there.
He's back. Please conclude. The network is somewhat bad.
Your place. Am I clear to?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Great. So now when we talk of adhering to security and health and safety measures in Ghana, we can talk about this more in major constructions, and especially the ones that are being sponsored by multinationals whose standards must be kept. So the motorway, that is the motorway was being constructed, and you realize that safety is very key during that process. Now you come to most of the regular constructions we see, and this is what we see on day-to-day basis. Nothing, no clear-cut safety policy. people working from experience, and it will shock you, some of these things you are seeing, they are building 5, 6, 10-story buildings and more. And that is the risk that we are exposed to as a country. Now, the future of the industry is very promising. Now, in the light of all of this, there have been a lot of push by industry players to make sure that new safety laws are being passed and that the government adhere to safety regulations. And I can say that Ghana is now in an election year, and safety is part of some campaign promises by the major political players in Ghana. Therefore, we expect to see a lot in the coming years. In conclusion, I would, in conclusion, I would like to say that the construction industry in Ghana is very lucrative. It is very promising, and it appears to be attracting a whole lot of people. And we believe that with this level of people getting involved will also come with more and more risk, as the focus currently by contractors is on making money and not necessarily on safety. Thank you very much.
Dr. Elizabeth, mic is off.
I used the wrong slide.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Alexander, for sharing the experience in the construction industry in Ghana. We have 3 questions. But I'm going to allow only 2 in the interest of time. And the first question can be answered by Professor Carl. And the question is there a number of fatalities, accidents under construction sector decreased amid COVID-19 crisis in Africa or Germany? So this is Germany we are going to talk about due to lockdown. Professor Kao, are you there?
I sent already a written answer, but only for Germany. And we had a small increase during the lockdown phase as the construction was ongoing 100% in Germany during the lockdown. There was a lack of inspectors at that time. Maybe that's the reason that we have a small increase, that supervision was going down. But after some months, we come back to 100%, and hopefully it was only a small increase end of the year. So especially faults was a problem in Germany at that time. But okay, we hope that numbers going down now again. But it was a small increase in Germany in the construction industry in the lockdown phase.
Thank you, Professor. The second question is directed to Evangelisa. Is there a process to check the compliance of rope and nets?
Sorry, I didn't hear
Is there a process to check the compliance of rope and nets? Did you get that question, Alexander?
Hello?
You can hear now. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Elizabeth, are you talking to me?
Yes, yes, there's a question for you, which
Yes.
is there a process to check the compliance of rope and nets?
Sorry, I couldn't understand. To the compliance of
rope and nets. Rope for tying.
Evangelista, I think what the person wants to know was the level of compliance when it has to do with rope and net. This has to do with falling from height and walking at height.
rope access, you mean?
Rope
you tie.
Yes.
Rope.
The rope that you tie.
For walking at height and falling from height.
Yes. What is if there is a way to measure the compliance?
To check the compliance.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Is it possible to answer the question using my email? I mean, with through an email, because I'm not sure if I understand very well what is the question about.
All right, Evangelista. You
Sorry.
answer the question through the email. You can answer that question through the email. So the other question then, I will just go to another question quickly. This is a question which is asking us, how do construction sector ensure that norm is fully implemented for physical distancing in the new normal? How do we ensure that the new norm is fully implemented regards social distancing?
Dr. Elizabeth, the question is for me.
This can be answered.
Okay, we have
that this can be answered by any of the panelists. Any of the panelists who can attempt to yes, Professor?
During the pandemic, we have these rules for social distancing. There are two options. The first option is that the employer takes care that it really will happen, the social distance. And the second is controlling via inspectorates, that they check it and try to convince them via training, via talking to them. But there will be, for sure, situations in the construction sector where you can't keep the distance. And therefore, you have to take other measures like wearing masks, respiratory protective masks, and maybe cleaning, washing, all these things will be in addition. So if distance is possible, then you should do it. But we will have a lot of occasions in the construction sector where the distance is closer than the 1.5 or 2 meter, and therefore you need other measures. One is respiratory protective device. But I think Dr. Knut Rengel later will talk about it as well.
Thank you so much, Professor. I would like to take this opportunity to thank each one of you for those perspectives and those comprehensive presentation. Thank you so much. I wouldn't want to dilute the points that have been given by the panelists. However, I will quickly highlight some of the lessons that we have learned. While construction industry is known to be risky, proper safety and health training continuous health training and giving information, as well as regular inspections and updated equipment, can mitigate some of the risks that come through the construction industry. We've also learned that with Vision Zero, 7 golden rules, working to eliminate safe hazards, Vision Zero is a mission possible. We've also had practical examples of how Cyprus has customized the 7 golden rules, and that is working for them. From Ghana, we've also learned that construction is lucrative and that the future of construction industry is promising, and a new safety bill is under consideration, and that there is increased awareness as most people respect work and not safety. We've also learned that Vision Zero can be achieved by adopting a system approach, by planning and doing and checking. Having said that, the conclusion is therefore that Vision Zero is a way to improve safety and health in construction industry. Thank you very much, and over to you, moderator Larona. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. That was an indeed informative technical session. Thank you to all the presenters. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure next year in Lagos, we should be reporting a positive trend towards zero. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Petra Jekic, Secretary General of the International Social Security Association, Construction, Germany. She will be the chairperson for technical session 2. Ms. Petra, over to you, ma'am.
Yes, hello everyone. I hope you can all hear me now. I'm really thankful that I can be involved in this event. When we were first planning the huge conference for this year, we were disturbed by the COVID crisis, of course, and we finally had to decide that the conference as planned couldn't go ahead this year. But then we discussed that COVID is having great influences on our lives and on our work, but at the same time, maybe this can be, create other positive developments as well. And in ISA Construction, we've been looking at what is going on in a lot of the countries in the world, and we've realized that there are some very good examples in our developments, and that's why we decided that the technical session 2 should be an opportunity for our members to present the developments that have been taking place in the construction industry during the COVID crisis. And so that's why we put together this technical session. And since we are already a little bit behind schedule, I would like to straight away ask the first speaker, Dr. Knut Ringen, to give his presentation. Knut Ringen is the Senior Scientific Advisor to the CPWR, the Center for Construction Research and Training in the USA. Going to share with us the experience in the COVID time in the United States. So Knut, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Can I share my slides or no?
Yeah, you are supposed to share your slides if this
Okay.
is possible.
Yes, it is. Here we go. Good morning, Africa. My name is Knut Ringen. I'm sitting here in Seattle. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, so please be patient with me. I would like to congratulate Mr. Iden and the organizers for putting together such a wonderful conference under very difficult circumstances. Now, before I start, I want to emphasize that the US is by no means an excellent country in terms of construction safety and health. We are far behind many other countries in both Asia and in Europe. But some 30, 40 years ago, when the leaders of our industry decided that it wanted to make serious improvements in safety and health, we turned to ISA, the International Social Security Association, for help. And we've taken advantage of the experiences that the members of ISA have developed over the years to jumpstart a big improvement in our safety and health performance. And we've seen really, really major improvements over the last 30 years. Nevertheless, we are still quite a bit behind countries like Germany and France and others in Europe. So I don't want to pretend that we are that we are not able to still improve more than we have done, but we are making improvements. The really important thing about Vision Zero, which captures what ISA has learned over decades of experience, is that the essence to safety is a focus on planning and preparedness. If you look at all of the rules of Vision Zero, and if you listen to what the earlier speakers have said, they've emphasized this. Most injuries are caused by poor planning and poor preparedness. But through planning and preparedness, we can prevent just about all of them. We have aspects of our industries, and this is true in most countries, where the very best actors, the very best companies working with the very best clients have a safety performance that are equal to what you find in the finance industries, and have a great deal of excellence to it. Unfortunately, it's very different across the industry. Some sectors are very, very poor. Some are like the informal sectors in Africa. We still have that here in the US. And I'll touch a little bit on that. But if we can only get everybody to focus on this, the need for planning and preparedness, we will be a very, very big step forward. I was asked to talk about the COVID crisis. Last March, I attended a meeting with ISA in the first week of March in Brussels, where we discussed this and came to the conclusion then that we would have to do something very drastic in order to begin to address what was barely then a noticed epidemic anywhere, but was bound to explode everywhere. And what we have seen since is, of course, that that's happened. In the US, we now have over 12.5 million cases of COVID. In the last week alone, we added 1.4 million new cases in just 1 week. So you can see how fast this is expanding. And as a result of the planning, the discussions that we had in Brussels and what we did subsequent was that CPWR immediately started to put together a clearinghouse on COVID-19 that is available to you online. If you look at these, this little link down here, you will see where you can reach it. There's a lot of information available on this website. It keeps growing and growing, and all of this is freely available. It's open source and it's for use for everyone. And the information I'm going to present to you today comes from this website largely. Construction has, as Karl-Heinz said about Germany, construction in the US from the beginning of the epidemic was defined as an essential industry, one that could not be closed down, although some aspects of it has been closed down from time to time. But the industry by and large has operated throughout the epidemic. And the industry was a very early adapter of controls to prevent infections on our job sites. Nevertheless, we're clearly not done enough there are not many good data on how badly workers in different industries are being affected by COVID, but a new study that was just published from Texas showed that construction workers had 5 times greater risk of being hospitalized for COVID than other occupational categories. That surprised me, and I think it's a little bit atypical because construction, after all, is to a significant amount outdoors work with good ventilation. Workers generally work pretty far distance from each other, and you wouldn't expect this. But in Texas, we have an industry that has a lot of aspects that are similar to the informal industries that you see many places in Africa, with many workers from Mexico and other parts of Central America employed under very, very, very poor conditions. Now, in order to deal with COVID, we came up with some essential controls. The first is that every work site needs to have a COVID policy, and they need to have a direct designated COVID coordinator. On every work site, the workers who can work remotely from home should do so during this epidemic. Many people, like engineers and so on, can do a lot of their work from home. Workers with symptoms should stay home until tested. But if they don't get paid when they stay home, they're not going to stay home. They're going to come to work. So it's very important that they get paid during these, if they have an infection or if they're sick and they think they have symptoms, that they get paid while they stay away from work. That's not easily accepted by the industry, by the way. Then there are on-the-job precautions that we should take. First of all, there should be health checks at every entry point to the construction site. Workers with any symptoms coming to work, including a high temperature or something like that, should be sent home again with pay. Every worker should have face covers. That should be mandatory at all times. Workers should keep a 2-meter distance from other workers where possible. And we should identify any, what we call choke points, where people come together easily, like in elevators, lifts, maybe on entryways and so on. And we should create foot patterns, how people walk or move through a job site so that it's only one way and people don't come in contact with each other. We need much better sanitary facilities, much better cleaning than we've had before. Regular hand washing among workers requires, first of all, there be running water and hand washing available on job sites. Not traditionally been the case. We need better cleaning of toilets and other rest areas, and we need to prevent contact with suppliers who come and the delivery of materials and so on to prevent somebody who may be infected from coming in contact with people. And that requires really careful planning that should be done anyway on any job site. If you're going to have supplies delivered, you should plan on where you want it delivered and how it's going to be laid up and stored until it's being used. If you do that properly, you don't have many contacts and you don't have to worry so much about this. And so for the last 6 months, we've seen on every job site in the US just about signs like this, about avoid close contact, wash your hands, stay home if you're sick, and so on. And as a result of all of this, to help employers do this properly, CPWR and others have developed checklists like this one. How do you assess hazards from COVID? How do you determine where there's a risk for contact? How do you create controls against those risks? And the various kinds of controls that you can put in place. You can find all of this on our website, so I will not go through it in detail in the interest of time. But I want to show you some pictures about how, to some extent, very simple actions can have really big impacts. And first, if you look at that picture on the left-hand side over here, you can see here there's a path for people coming in, a path for people going out. Ideally, that should be in two separate locations. People should come in at one entry and go out at another one so they don't come in contact at all. This wasn't possible in this job site, so they set up this two-way lane for people to walk in this direction. On the job site, here you have staircases going up, staircases coming down, again to keep people separated. Over here you can see people are moving and they're keeping their distance from each other in a proper way. I said something about designating separate entry and exit points. Really, really, really important and requires lots of planning. Developing good or better sanitary facilities, putting in place these portable toilets at least 6 feet apart and 6 feet separating them from a hand washing station that should obviously be close by any toilet facility. Putting together all over the worksite portable hand sanitizing stations where you can spray some hand sanitizers on your hands and clean up and keep, maybe even clean your tools with it. A variety of these kinds of things. Those should all be available and they are pretty easy to make and put in place. If workers do have to work close together, which occurs on occasion, like these two guys are having to join some piping, there's no way that one person can do that by him or herself. Therefore, they have created, in this case, a portable plexiglass barrier that separates these two guys. This barrier is so clean that you can't even see it, but it's there. That can be made very simple with some wood and some plastic wrapping if you want. It doesn't have to be really fancy. You can also see these workers are wearing their face coverings in conditions where they're working this closely. Ideally, they would be wearing a real respirator, but since respirators are in very short supply, and are limited to largely healthcare workers, we're making do with face coverings of various kinds at this point in time. Another thing that has been implemented greatly is that instead of, when we're lifting heavy loads, we're finding how to do this mechanically so that two workers are not close together moving things. We have this to move these heavy concrete blocks. We now have a mechanical lifting device that lifts them. This guy guides them. There's another guy running the lifting machine. They're not close together and they're preventing this. Turns out that all of this is very cost effective. It's not only good safety and health practice, all of this saves a lot of money. And I think Paul DeField touched on that a little bit in one of the earlier presentations, that all of this thing about doing safety properly leads to better quality in terms of the work that is performed and better productivity and less costs. Safety pays. We know that. Here's another very simple example. Instead of people touching doors, you can create some sort of very simple attachment to a door that you can open and close using your foot. Lots of these kinds of things have been developed as simple solutions, things that can be done by just about anybody, provided that there is a commitment to safety. And you can find all of this information on our websites. Here is CPWR's main website. There's information on every topic you can think of in terms of safety and health in construction. And you can reach me if you have any questions at this email address. And with that, Petra, I'm going to stop and see if we can get back on track.
Yes,
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Knut, for the presentation, for sharing the experience from the CPWR with developments with regard to what happens during the COVID-19 situation. Background noise.
του σημείου που έχει αναφέρει ο κύριος Πεθίγης αναφορικά με το περιεχόμενο της επιστολής που έχετε αποστείλει.
So that's better now, I hope. As with the previous session, we will have questions and answers at the end of the session, and therefore we should continue directly with the next speaker, who is Olga Bogdanova. She's the chairperson of the board of ESOS, ESOS being the European Society of Occupational Safety and Health in Ukraine. So she's going to speak to us about the management of contractors in construction sites. And I hope that it will be possible now for Olga to share her screen and to give her presentation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Olga Bogdanova, chairperson at Health and Safety Professional Community. So could you see my screen now? I just share it in the proper way. And Ukraine, let me introduce our country is located in the Eastern Europe with 36 million people. And we have a lot of highly developed enterprises of heavy industry, mining, agriculture, gas and oil, and surely construction is a part of all activities. And I asked my health and safety association to share the examples, the best practice, mainly in industrial construction, on how to manage contractors in construction sites successfully. Together, we defined three main principles of contractor management. We call them 3R. What is it about? First R is responsibility. Why? As health and safety practitioner, I often hear from managers, I hired the contractor. He is completely responsible for safety issues. It's his business and I don't care. I always answer it's not true. It is the easiest way, but it will never work. If we look through Framework Directive 391, if we look through 5.7 Directive on temporary or mobile construction sites, who is responsible? The client for whom a project is carried out and the project supervisor acting on behalf of the client. This concept is a basis for the effective contractor management system. What is next? Second R is risk assessment. That means assess everything, at least try to assess everything at every stages, and we will see some examples later. And R number 3 is relationship. In other words, I talk about respect, about communication. We have the same troubles with clients sometimes. They say, what a crazy contractor, I pay him, I want him to work harder, faster, better. If I hear this, I explain from my 12-year experience, if you say so, you will definitely have accidents, as you do not bother yourself to investigate why your contractor is not effective. I do realize it's not easy. As a health and safety manager, I was nearly fired because of this particular contractor at the site. It was really difficult for me to be quiet, but we all make mistakes. And the best what we can do is to learn from them, from these mistakes. And afterwards, together with this contractor, we created new procedures of control and we all moved on better. So if you look for best practices, you will find definitely a lot of bad ones, but still keep trying, as best practices inspire, lead, and I have chosen some very good examples for you. So first one is from Metinvest, is a group of steel and mining companies with 80,000 employees that joined Vision Zero a year ago. They have 1,600 contractors and 70 contractors companies at the site simultaneously, permanently. And they say pre-qualification is a key. Paying more attention at the stage of choosing contractors, you will be more effective during the construction. Risk assessment should be in each stage with different methods, hazard, HAZOP, environmental job safety analysis. Here is the control chart in construction site. So you can see that the client gives constant support and control to contractors. Now about safety training. Sometimes we cannot expect sufficient safety knowledge from contractors until you teach them. I do realize that you have no time for this, but you need to plan this time. And now you can see safety training on work at height together for client, employees, and contractors. It was really helpful, but a very, very critical point now, how to provide safety training in time of pandemic, because you cannot put a lot of people together, but you still need to provide them with really important training that rescues their lives. In this case, we also continue with safety training, but with providing individual information for each participant that they can study on their own, and then testing. So individual testing via testing in social nets, via testing in internet, and via testing of their skills that they have. So it's important to continue with training, even it's a difficult period. Again, with stop hours of contractors, it's, you know, it's difficult today, but you can loud your voice, but still continue with it, because it is aimed to provide the important safety information. And it was noticed the number of safety violations after stop hours, lessons learned, and other 1 point lessons decreases. So violation and decreases is the main. It's the main our aim. And also wonder your best contractors with recognition and reward. And they will try to do their best in future also. ArcelorMittal is a steel manufacturing corporation in Kryvyi Rih city in Ukraine, underlines also preparedness. Please have a look. Contractor management before works take the majority of time. Risk assessment also starts at the pre-qualification stage, and they scope contractors on accident rate, legal permits, technical equipment, safety training, health safety system, PPE provision, including preparedness to COVID pandemic situation, etc. Regarding relationship, Arcelor is famous with its strong groups of auditors. They call them spread scorpions. And let me also have a look on the gas oil company, Weatherford in Ukraine. Procurement shall ensure adequate controls. So you see again a pre-qualification, and supply quality survey inclusive in on-site audit. So it's reasonable to see how contractors work at their sites before you invite them into your site. Asnova Salsif is a purely construction company. From the experience, daily meetings, again now with communication, with communication, all these devices, we still continue that between client and contractors. They actually were the contractors. Really helpful. They built a concrete plant and they widely used permits to work, safety tags, And there were no injuries at the site during the project, and according to the contract, the contractor obtained 20% increased payment from the client because there were no injuries. There is an example of Imperial Brands I was working with, and to make our work clear, we split all our contractors into groups: permanent and temporary works, hazardous and not hazardous. And there is a difference in control with permanent works. Audit is added for hazardous work. Daily permit to work is added with proper visualization. And the permit to work system I used to control potentially hazardous, high, multiple, and complex risk activities. I hope that our examples can be useful for you, and to add more value, let me leave here the questionnaire. You can use it for self-assessment, how effective you are already in contractor management. Questions cover a plan, do, check, act cycle of continuous improvement, and I leave it for you here. Thank you very much to British and European health safety professionals from whom we study in Ukraine, and thank you to my colleagues that I'm really proud of. Let me wish to all of you safe work from Ukrainian colleagues, and our society is free of charge. Please contact us, join us. Our tagline is "Life is the ultimate value." Thank you, and I'm here for you for your questions and notes.
Thank you, Olga, for the presentation. The next speaker in our technical session 2 will be Roberto Morrison, who is the president of the Health and Safety Committee of the Chilean Construction Chamber. And he will now give us some of the insights of what happened in Chile in the COVID pandemic.
Thank you, Petra. I hope that this will work. I did not get on very well before, but let me see if it'll go now. Right, here we are. Can you see the presentation? Hello?
There was something on the screen for a short while, but
yes,
now,
but for some reason,
Zoom support is just
there it is again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Petra. Good morning from Chile, and good morning and good afternoon to all of you. This is an opportunity to let you know what we have done in Chile, who we are, but looking at how the COVID-19 has changed and will change our construction industry. First of all, what is the who we are when we talk about the Chilean Chamber of Construction. This should change the next one. What is the Chilean Chamber of Construction? Our mission is to improve the quality of life and commit to the sustainable development of the industry. And our vision is to promote the development of construction as a fundamental lever for the development of the country, support the well-being of Chileans, and especially construction workers and their families. Just to give you an idea, Chile's population today is estimated at around 18.7 million people. And this chamber includes nearly 3,000 members, all belonging to the construction chain of production. We have a national presence throughout the whole length of Chile. You can see how long and thin this country is. It's nearly 4,300 kilometers long. and there's 18 branches of this chamber throughout the country. How are we organized? We have a General Assembly, a National Council that are elected every 2 years, a Board of Directors that is also elected every 2 years. And this National Council has 8 advisory commissions. I am at present one of the president of one of these advisory commissions, which is the Health and Safety Commission. There's a Board of Directors, regional chambers, and also committees that are grouping all these members who are related to different specific types of contracts and jobs. Let us say housing, development, infrastructure, and large or and supplies, of course. Our scope of actions is, first of all, these are all private enterprises. So it's a meeting point of all our members throughout the country. We provide information that's organized and relevant to our activity to all our members. We also have one of the largest research departments in the country related to construction. And internationally, we are part of FIIC, SICA, and of course, ESA-C, and also bilateral agreements with other chambers. One of the key actors in the construction industry is this chamber that has a lot of relationship with all the areas of the country's political and economic development. Therefore, we are a great influence and a relevant actor in all the national and sectoral public policy for construction. What are our challenges? Well, obviously the city and its territory, the development of infrastructure. Productivity is one of our really important points that is at present in our goal. And of course, a labor market. When I say labor market, is to have prepared, safe, conscious and health conscious workers, modernizing the state, sustainability of our business, and of course, there you can see at the bottom, but because it's probably the most important one and one we have sustained and been pushing for a long time with the help of basically the use of the 7 golden rules of zero. Facing COVID-19. This was a very fast and short introduction to who we are. The transformation of the industry due to COVID is something that we have really been able to see. The industry has committed to the safety and the health of its workers. And what have we done as a chamber to face this pandemic? This is something that you would probably not expect from a private group of members of the construction industry. First steps, we developed supporting guides for members and workers through the emission of protocols. Then we had all our members signing a commitment to apply the protocols and guides and to ensure workers' safety and operational continuity. We've also supplied management tools and a model so that it can be used by all our members who have signed this commitment. So therefore, you can see how this has been included into a management model, starting with the protocols and supporting guides. This management model includes an application that can be used or is used directly on site, monitoring and controlling that we have complied with all that is included in the protocols. And this application is connected directly to the head office of each one of the companies that is using it, and is also sent in to the Chilean Chamber of Construction that has a view of all that is happening in all the different job sites. All job sites have been geo-referenced on a map so that we can tell where these jobs are located, and if there is a risk in that area of a high percentage of people that have contracted the COVID. So we can take special measures on that site. There's a hotline open to all workers, the community, and directly connected to the chamber, and receives all the communications, all comments from what the people on the job site or around the job site have to say, and if there's something that has to be bettered, it is immediately informed to the company so that this is taken immediately into account. Lastly, and this is something that is, I'd say, quite unexpected, the chamber contracted a third party to verify the commitment of all companies that they had complied with the statutes of the protocols. This would normally be a job that was done by officials, but as officials at this point do not have the manpower to visit all of the job sites to be sure that they have complied with the protocols, the chamber has contracted a third party to visit and verify that they have complied, and if there are any breaches of these protocols, will help them to comply so that the industry does not have a bad reputation. So what else have we done? Every year, the chamber, and this is what we've done for 13 years now, there's a contest of best practices open to all of the members. These best practices are, for the last 3 years, have been awarded according to each one of the 7 golden rules. We found who gets the first prize and second prize. But for this year, what we did is we also kept the 7 golden rules contest, but only directed to the best practices in COVID-19. We received 364 practices that were prized according to each one of these 7 rules. And these practices, to be able to take part in this contest, had to be placed on our website, so they were available to anyone on the construction industry to use them. So this is something new that we have done, but it's a way to contribute to the help of each one of our members, but also to all the industry, so that best practices can be helped in taking charge of the difficulties that the COVID has put in face of us. What could change in the construction industry after COVID-19? The empowerment of authorities has been very notable. It is likely that they will keep much more involved in safety and health issues. Project bidding will have to integrate safety and health issues with much more strength. But here I would like to outline an opportunity. Take advantage of the changes in conduct related to the rigor in the compliance of the sanitary measures due to COVID. We have emphasized the fact that COVID-19 is just another critical risk, and take it that way. Do not forget that the other risks are still there. Risks of falls, of electrocution, etc., are still present. There will be obviously remote working, and they will prevail. There will be probably a reduction of the number of workers in the field. We have seen how in prior presentations you have less people working because they have been included, mechanical measures have been included, automation, and the use of technology and planning for safety incorporated in project design and execution. An example, BIM will probably be much more used in the building information modeling, and there is one of the sections of this BIM system that includes safety. So we will probably see that BIM will be expanded basically basically to each time more and more contractors and more large works, basically the large works. The community, on the other hand, is much more informed, involved, and active. So they will keep that way even after COVID. So if you have noise, dust, or any other annoying problem at around a construction that is in process, you will have the community really working to see that things are done properly. So there will have to be more preventive measures included in the design and the relationship with the community and, of course, environment. There's a great challenge to prove the communication and relationship between different stakeholders and the industry. Communication is something that has to be enhanced throughout the industry and get down to the last worker in the job site, but obviously as well to all who are around your job. And if you look at this in perspective, construction will be a better world for its workers. We're sure that all that has been done to comply with all the protocols and all the instructions related to avoiding COVID will be a cultural advancement of the industry. So that'll be something that we have to uphold, be sure that we can relate the culture that has been included because of COVID, take it on to avoid falls, to be a better world for its workers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roberto, for the presentation and what you've been doing and what you've been experiencing in Chile. And the final speaker of our technical session in the second technical session in the morning is Jamie Badmos, who is the Executive Secretary of Safety Advocates and Empowerment Foundation in Nigeria. And he's going to speak to us about the use of technology in the COVID-19 situation. Please, Mr. Badmos, you've got the floor.
We want to talk about technology. The word Thank you very much, and thanks, organizer. We want to discuss issues relating to technology as regards COVID-19 when it came. But we must also know that in the construction sectors, a lot of technology has been used and have been used before COVID-19. We have a lot like autonomous construction vehicles where you can use the vehicles to carry things without you being inside the vehicles. We have a lot of generative designs which engineers will use to design projects from the conceptualization to what we want to achieve in the project. And post what the last speaker said, the building information modeling, whether it's 4G, whether it's 4D, 5D, 6D, these are very critical tools that we use in the construction. But now we want to focus on COVID-19 use of technology. When COVID-19 came, the pandemic has accelerated a lot of change that we have now. The shape in the future of work that we plan to happen some years later, 20 years, 15 years that we are planning has come forward because of COVID-19, and issues of social and economic adaptations have been affected. And construction sectors, we are not exempted. We are also affected. And that is why whenever you see any issues, any threats, it is incumbent on us as a professional to remember that risk and opportunity are two sides of the same coin. COVID-19 has come as a risk, as a threat, but we don't treat it that way. What we do is to look at opportunities that can come all the way from COVID-19. And that is why if you look at ISO 45001 2018, under clause 6.1, actions to address our risk and opportunities. It's clear. So as professionals, whatever happens as a risk, we start thinking of what are the opportunities that we can get from this risk. And that is the same reason why Steve Jobs, one of the founders of Apple, says, and it's so direct and simple, he made mention of innovation. He said innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity and not a threat. So COVID-19 has brought a change, and technology will be the driving force behind our new style of leadership, especially at this period. With technology, we can achieve a lot, and we can also gain a lot, and we can also reduce safety incidents in organization.
Sorry. Engineer Jamiu, good morning once more.
Good morning.
You know, we have the Portuguese and the French translators. So they just got something in that they cannot translate because you seem to be too fast for them. Just reduce your speed a little, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. What I've just said earlier is that technology becomes an innovation tools that we are going to use to manage situation like this, COVID-19. And the first thing we must do as professionals is to remember what we call our standard. That's ISO 45001 2018 under clause 6.1. We need to first address our risk and opportunities. And under clause 8.1.2, we need to think of how do we eliminate hazard and reduce health and safety risk. We have known all our risks. We've known a lot of them in construction sector. Then we now have to understand the risk that comes with COVID-19 and see how we can manage it together. We all know COVID-19 transmitted from woman to woman, as we know now, and it is from the droplets. We know that if an infected person sneezes or coughs and the droplet comes to us, one can have COVID-19, or we touch some surfaces. Having known this very well, the most important thing in innovation in this present world is to know that data is very important. And that is why Kesmaji put it in one of his statements, that the road to recovery is paved with data, because data will provide us the fuel to power better and make faster decisions. So having understand big data analytics, which is very critical to management of any situation, including technology amidst COVID-19. I will now give us a lot of technology, very simple ones that have been used and could also be developed and redesigned to be used. Smart wearables. In this case, we can put on some wristbands in some construction sites. Wristbands are being used in some sites to the extent that with this wristband, it can always beep or make some noises when you are close to the next person. Since in COVID-19, we are trying to maintain 2-meter distance. With these smart wristbands, when you are too close to the next person, it can alert you and beeps that you are close. Not just only this particular wristbands, we can also integrate some data like health records, like emergency alarm, so that when you are in a place and in the construction site and you need to alert others, we can click SOS button and it creates an emergency alarm for people to know that an issue has happened. This is a new world we find ourselves using technology. In this case also, you can know the age of people because this smart wristband can be connected with Internet of Things, and people at the back end can see our health records, our body temperatures while we are on the site working. A very good example is the ImuTouch. ImuTouch was developed by young guys, very young like us, and they developed this from grants from university. And what they did, if you remember, in COVID-19, very critical, 3 things that you must not touch with your dirty hands. You must not touch men. That is what we are told, men. If you touch men, you must touch men with clean hand. When I say men, I mean M for mouth, E for eyes, and N for nose. Thou shalt not touch these 3 things with unclean hands. That is what we are taught. So, and naturally, we like to touch our eyes, our nose, our mouth. This is natural. So some guys, professionals, integrated this ImuTouch. ImuTouch is to assist us to put the bands in your hand and is connected to a phone. This ImuTouch will beeps. Immediately you want to touch your eyes, it will make a noise and you know that, look, hand is going to the eyes. While doing that, your phone can be recording and plotting graphs and data. The word is the word of data, big data analytics. It starts plotting things to be advising you that you are touching something. It is designed such that one of the components, accelerometer, is very, very critical to tell us that our hand is going to the eyes. And remember, if your hand is not going to the eyes, it's not going to the nose, it's not going to the mouth, you can be sure that at least when you touch surfaces, it will not come to affect you. It can't get in contact with you. Smart wearables. Another good example is smart coverall. It's part of wearables. Coveralls nowadays in some construction sites, you have it with a sensor that I can know that I'm closer to somebody. I can know if there's a problem with myself, and I can equally press an alarm button. The same thing goes to ADAT. The ADAT that we know is just to protect the head in case we fall. ADAT has moved from that level to also giving us a temperature sensor to know where we are in terms of temperature. It has a GPS sensor that knows our location. If a staff has an issue on construction site, the ADAT can easily locate where the person is. It has a camera that we can use to visualize everything in the construction site, and this can be sent to records at the back end. So this is the COVID-19 technology that are coming up. And that is why Amazon tested one of them using a wearable device that when the warehouse workers are getting close to each other, it beeps and lights up. And of course, they can get details from CCTV and computer vision. Platform technology. The world is now going into platform technology, a technology that will be at a place and everything going on the construction site, all the processes, all the technologies that we deploy can all be visualized and be seen and analyzed under one particular platform. And platform technology has created a lot of opportunities in UK when Procure, the company, started it and it's working well. On your system, you can do permit to work system, you can do a lot of isolations, everything, and make your direction all from the system. This will enhance paperless construction site. We start using now intelligent construction management and accounting software. All software like BIM and others, BIM and others can now use to manage construction. Why people, limitation of people on construction site will affect us. Yes, we start using technology to drive people not being on site, very few people on site, and this will continue to work. Number 4, chatbot technology. This is a very simple one. It's even been applied in Nigeria, but not in construction sector for now that I know. When the power sector, this is being applied. What does it mean? With ordinary WhatsApp, you can create a chat box that instead of you gathering your staff to do training on construction sites, which is difficult for us to do now because of COVID-19, with a chat box technology, we can do training and every one of us will be seeing it. You can ask questions on the chat box and it will give you solution to your problem. We can develop training module and we can use so these are ongoing at chat box. Very easy for us to do a lot of things with this particular WhatsApp. Then face recognition and temperature access control. In the beginning of COVID-19, the manual temperature access is what most people use. You test people at a point in time, the person testing your temperature is even close to you, it's not within, is within the 2-meter distance. So what do? Organizations brought in a new system that will not only measure your temperature, but also have your face recognition. And having your face recognition implies that when you go inside the slide, it continues to monitor your ways and the way you walk. Now that is a good safety monitoring system, and it continues to give us a result at the back end, data analytics. This is very critical. And now we can know the faces. If you don't use nose mask while on the field, on the construction site, we can detect it even from the back end and make corrections, and you can adjust to change. It gives room for effective monitoring. Training, first aid app. A lot of organizations, even American Red Cross, they have app where we can download and we start doing some first aid courses. So we don't need to bring in a first aid trainer to construction sites, which we know that we don't want many people on the side because of COVID-19. Now, when you start having app, you can even develop your company's app and put some trainings there where people on the side can check and look at some trainings, inductions and different trainings, low total, and a lot of trainings can be put in this, your app. This is an example of first aid app. Is online, one can download it and you can continue to train yourself because COVID-19 has put it in place to us that we don't need to have time to work, do training on site. Number 7, Internet of Things. Internet of Things, and I must confess, for we Africa, this may be a little bit difficult for us unless we are able to put our internet facility in place. Ordinary Zoom, because if you use Zoom to do lectures, sometimes you are out because of internet facility. But Internet of Things have been deployed in organizations, and even KEPCO in Korea use Internet of Things to manage their safety management system in the tunnel construction. They call it Smart Safety Management System. And this is what I'm researching on presently as a research student. Internet of Things is very critical. You make sure you put sensors in almost everything that are on your site, including equipment, including the people, and everything is connected to a GPS. And before you know it, using GIS methodology and internet, you'll be able to see what is happening to each of your components on the site at the back end. Very, very critical. And you can monitor, you can know equipment that needs maintenance, you can know what is the next stage, you can see hazard, and you can alert yourself about hazard. While you are at the back, you can censor that person, send message to that person that hazard is here, be very careful of this area. That is the power of technology that you can do. Then the very common one, robots and drones. Robots are used presently in some construction sites for laying of bricks, for doing a lot of work, painting, for going to certain level of height that human beings, when they go, work at that, risk is so high. So now we can use robots. And I must confess to us today, in 2021, we see the use of robots in this country in one of the power sectors to manage health and safety and technical issues online. Because a drones, you can input a lot of making it artificially intelligent by making the drones not only to capture picture, but analyze data, get you data, analyze it at the back end. You can know a lot of safety issues. You can do monitoring, you can do inspection, you can do assessment of your construction site, wherever they are, while you use this drone to control. You cannot take the drone and get your data from the back end. So use of drones will come up, and by God's grace, as I've said, the consideration will be done, the design has been done, everything is okay to fly in 2021 in the largest power distribution company in Nigeria. And it will monitor health and safety across board, will tell you lapses areas, those who are working on site, contractors, subcontractors, you will see them working, you will even talk to them that we are not complying with the rules of safety. We tell them that is the use of drones. Technology is very powerful. Are there other solutions from technology? There are many. I'm currently researching on immersive technologies. It is very common. Virtual reality is very common. We also have augmented reality. And now mixed reality has also come. All these three realities are under immersive technologies, which we are presently watching, see how this can be deployed in our country, in Nigeria. Technology has to do with innovation, and that is in line with ISO 56002, 2018. One must be ready to put in place a lot of thinking and see how we can come out of the risk. We must not take everything as a threat. We must understand the threat. Having understood the threat, we must look for opportunities, and technology is the opportunity for the present moment of COVID-19. One of my great leaders, Mr. Tope Shinubi, a co-founder of Sahara Group, one of the leading energy group in Africa, in short, part of them in the world, he says, embrace challenges and break new grounds through innovation and collaboration. You can't do it alone. You can't develop technology alone. You must work with all the teams. It must be a collaborative effort, and all of us will eventually achieve and save ourselves from this pandemic situation. And the shape of future of work, yes, technology is a solution. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you for the invite. Thank you.
Thank you for this presentation, which gave us a huge insight in the use of technologies and what we can expect for the future. I don't see any new questions at the moment for the speakers of the session. So maybe in order to also make up a little bit of the time schedule, if there are further questions coming in later on, they can be answered either in writing, or we can take them up after the afternoon session maybe. And then I would like to conclude this session by saying we learned a lot about the use of safe work practices during the COVID crisis, a lot of safety measures which were in place in the past but which were not really implemented have now finally been taken over by the workers and employers. We have heard a lot about best practice, for example, in the relation between clients, contractors and workers, and we have learned about the very importance of responsibility, risk assessment and relation, which also includes the need to really communicate on construction sites in order to make safe work practices relevant. There are new management models that we have available at the moment. And I think it was also great to hear that the best practice contest in Chile was so much focusing on COVID as well and got so much response, which shows that on construction sites, people are really thinking about what they can achieve and how they can do their work in a safe manner during this COVID crisis. And then we saw all those new technological developments as well, all these new opportunities and chances which we have and which we will certainly develop in the future as well. In our own organization at the beginning of COVID, we wouldn't have been able to have a Zoom conference like this because they were technologically not able or not willing to put through all these new opportunities that we have. And now we are seeing that developments can be much faster than we thought in the past. And so I am really very much looking forward to our big conference next year when we can see how all these developments went on, how all these new technological devices are being used by all of us and on the construction sites in the near future. And I'm sure that we will see that there are a lot of bad things about COVID, but also a lot of lessons that we have learned and that we can now use to make construction sites even safer and better in the future, so that we can really prove that safety pays. With that, I would like to give the floor back to the moderator for this morning, Mrs. Serrero, for the conclusion of the morning's sessions.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the presenters in the various technical sessions. We have come to the end of our morning session. Thank you to all the presenters. Thank you to all the guests. Remember, let's continue to aim for 0 and not hope for 0. The afternoon session will start at 1300 hours West African time. Please be on time. Thank you. See you in the afternoon.
Thank you so much, Lerona, and thanks to all the great speakers for very insightful presentation. We'll be seeing the feedback from the chat box has been very impressive, and I think this is what we hope for, and we are getting it. So as we proceed for our lunch break now, please ensure you don't overfeed because it could make you sleepy when you come back for the afternoon session. So let's take time off and stretch our legs and then just come back at 1 o'clock. There are many other papers that are still yet to be presented. Honestly, I am very happy at the strength of content that we have for this year's presentation. And this is just this will give us an insight into what will happen when we have the physical conference next year in Nigeria. And once again, thank you all very much for attending. So I look forward to seeing you everyone in the next 40 minutes thereabout. Thanks a lot.